because this word impacted my life. I can always know when it's a rhema word because I don't really want to preach it. And Between Two Gardens was one of those sermons that I did not want to preach, but God would not release me from it. It's going to bless you. Have you ever found yourself between the devil and the deep blue sea? Have you ever found yourself between a rock and a hard place? Have you ever found yourself looking forward to there, but right now you are here? You've been between two gardens. This word is going to encourage you because I want you to know after every garden comes a blessing. Tune in. I'll see you at the end of the broadcast. Between Two Gardens.
The text says in Matthew that after they had eaten of the Passover and sang a hymn, that Jesus leaves the upper room and goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. As he enters the garden, his disciples are traveling with him, and the Bible says as he entered the outer part of the garden, he tells the disciples his purpose for coming to the garden. Jesus tells the disciples, I came to the garden to pray, not to preach, not to write, but I came to the garden to pray. I came to be intimate with my Father and transparent with my emotion. And while all of the disciples who were in the upper room with him traveled to the garden with him, except Judas, who has begun the process of betraying him, when he arrives in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Bible says that he tells 8 of the disciples to watch and pray that they fall not into temptation. Right there, my brothers and sisters, Jesus shows us the weapon that keeps us from falling into temptation. He said the only thing that can keep you from falling into temptation is the power of prayer. He said if you learn how to watch and pray, it will keep you from falling into temptation. He then takes with him 3 of the disciples, one by the name of Peter, the other one by the name of James, and the other one by the name of John. And he goes further into the garden and he invites them to pray with him. He takes 11 disciples in the garden. On the outer part of the garden, he invites them to pray for him and for themselves so they do not fall into temptation. And out of the 11, he picks out 3, Peter, James, and John, and he invites them to go further in the garden with him. And he invites them not just simply to pray for him, but to pray with him. This is not the first time that Jesus have ever separated the disciples like this. If you are in Bible country, you recall that the time that Jesus went to heal Jairus' daughter, when he got to Jairus' house, although all of the disciples traveled with him, he only took in the house Peter, James, and John. The second time was when he climbed the Mount of Transfiguration. And up on that mount, Jesus once again only takes with him Peter, James, and John. He goes up on that mountain to pray, and as he prays, the appearance of his face was altered, his robe became white, and he conversed with Moses and Elijah. We know from both experience that Jesus is teaching us an important lesson. And the lesson is this: everyone who's in the valley with you can climb the mountain with you. Everyone who's in the valley with you cannot climb the mountain with you. Everybody who is on level 1 with you won't make it to level 2. Everybody who saw you when you were broke ain't gonna shout because you got blessed. And the reason why Jesus only took 3 up on the mountain with him is because Jesus understands that not everybody can handle his shine. The reason why he only took 3 on the mountain with him is because Jesus understands that everybody can handle his shine. Remember, it's up on the mountain he began to shine. And nothing is worse than being on a mountain with somebody who can celebrate your shine. God help me right here. He doesn't take everybody. Come on, sit down. He doesn't take everybody up on the mountain with him because everybody can handle the elevation and everybody can handle the shine. The third occasion is on the night when he's about to be betrayed and denied. And the Bible says he enters the garden and he takes with him on the outer part of the garden at least 11 of the disciples because Judas have a wall. And when he gets there, as he goes further into the garden, he simply takes Peter and not Simon. You don't want Simon with you. You need Peter. Come on up in here. He takes with him Peter, and he takes James, and he takes John. Jesus only takes with him in the inner part of the garden Peter, James, and John. And somebody just sent me an email saying, why did he only take Peter, James, and John? I'm glad you asked the question. I believe the answer is in their name and their character. Peter means rock. John is the beloved disciple, and James is committed to you. And whenever you're going up to the mountain, or whether you're going somewhere in life, you need somebody who's solid as a rock. You need somebody who loves you in spite of you, and you need somebody who's willing to die for you. Would you do me a favor and ask your neighbor, say, are you one of the three, or do I need to find me somebody else? Because I ain't trying to climb no mountain with nobody who is solid as a rock. I don't need you to be hot today and cold tomorrow. I don't need you to be fickle today and solid tomorrow. Either you're all the way in or you're all the way out, because I'm climbing a mountain. You've got to make sure that you've got the right three. Somebody holler three. You got to have the right three. Can you do me a favor? Would you take your iPhone and your BlackBerry and your Android out? Would you go through your contact list? And if none of them shows up to be Peter, James, and John, what you do? Scroll, select, and delete. God help me. Come on, if they ain't gonna pray for you, scroll, select, and delete. If they're not gonna shout for you, scroll, select, and delete. If they're not gonna holler for you, scroll, select, and delete. You might as well do a pew check and say, neighbor, are you the right one, or do I need to find me another seat? Do I need to relocate in the Potter's house? Because I ain't trying to sit next to no Simon. I ain't trying to hang out with no Judas. I ain't trying to hang out with nobody crazy. I need me Peter, James, and John.
Still to come on your best day yet.
Everybody cannot handle a struggling Jesus. A Jesus who's in the garden and he is struggling with the will of the Father. Everybody cannot handle a Jesus who is real, who is transparent, who is vulnerable. You don't want a struggling Jesus. You don't want to know he's agonizing. You don't want to know he's crying. You don't want to know he's wrestling, because it might mess your theology up. But I need a struggling Jesus, because my life hasn't always been perfect. I need somebody who knows what it is to not have anywhere to sleep, anywhere to live. Is there anybody up in here who says, give me a Jesus who can identify with my struggle?
Dr. Jazz Ministries provides support to global outreach programs currently focused in Trinidad and Tobago. With the new television broadcast, Your Best Day Yet, Dr. Jazz brings a fresh voice of power and encouragement.
I need you to partner with me in prayer, because we need God to hear us and do something tremendous on the earth. But secondly, would you partner with me to equip, empower, and educate men and women in the gospel ministry, to let them know that there is a God who's able to pick them up and turn them around. Would you consider doing both for me?
Your gift of $32 or more helps continue to make this inspirational broadcast possible. Sow a life-changing seed today. Become a partner with Dr. Jazz Ministries, 844-DR-JAZZ-4.
You know, preaching is preaching through your personality and preaching through your problems. And so while I was preaching it, I was dealing with my own between two gardens, knowing what God had promised me in the future, but where I am in the present. And I said between the devil and the deep blue sea. So to be transparent was scary, but I know there's a moment where to make an eternal impact, you have to be vulnerable. But when you're vulnerable in the right place, in the preaching moment and in the presence of God with the people, it makes it even much easier.
He's going, come on, sit down. He's on his way to Calvary, but he stops by a garden. He takes 11, somebody say 11. He takes 11 of them in the outer court, but as he goes further into the inner court, he doesn't take 11, he takes 3. God help me, because everybody who's in the valley with you can go to the mountain with you. Everybody who's in the outer court is not invited to the inner court. God help me. And even although he took Peter, James, and John further than the rest that he took, the Bible said he also left them. And he went by himself. Are you all here tonight? Touch your neighbor. Say, neighbor, Gethsemane, you're going to have to handle by yourself. And your mama can do it. Your daddy can do it. Bishop can do it. There are some garden you got to go for yourself. There are some things you got to do for yourself. And I'm looking for 200 people up in here who said, if nobody praise him, I praise him by myself. If nobody shout, I shout by myself. If nobody holler, I holler by myself, because my praise does not depend on anybody. Slap 5 at your neighbor and say, I dare you to sit there and look cute. It's not going to bother me. It's not going to affect me. It's not going to drive me crazy, because I bought my own shout. I bought my own praise. And this... there's some places, there are some places you have to go by yourself. Your mama ain't going with you. Your daddy ain't going with you. You can't take your iPhone and your Android with you. But if you got enough word inside of you, when you can't find the choir or find the praise team or find the Hammond B3, if you got enough word in you, you ain't got to wait for nobody to encourage you. You can step out of yourself, look into yourself, encourage yourself, lay hands on yourself. Is there anybody up in here tonight? In fact, listen, there is a Gethsemane for everybody. I said there is a garden for everybody. And somebody says, I can't remember, I believe it's Gardner Taylor, who says, before you climb your Calvary, you must endure your Gethsemane. I just said something. Before you climb your Calvary, you've got to endure your Gethsemane, because Gethsemane is the prerequisite for Calvary. If you can't handle a snake in the garden, you ain't gonna be able to handle nails at Calvary. If you can't shout in the garden, you ain't gonna be able to shout at Calvary. If you can't pray in Gethsemane, you ain't gonna be able to say, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit. You and I have to endure. We've got to endure. We have to endure our own Gethsemane in all three regards, Bishop. From Jairus' daughter to the Mount of Transfiguration to the garden experience in the text, we see Jesus, don't miss this, we see Jesus' interaction with death. Between Jairus' daughter and the Mount of Transfiguration and in the garden, we see Jesus having a dance with death. We see Jesus having a romance with death. Between Jairus' daughter, he's doing the cha-cha. Between the Mount of Transfiguration, he's backing it up. But by the time he gets to the garden, he's moving forward. Is there anybody up in here tonight? He's having. I feel Bishop's spirit on me. Just excuse me. He's having a dance with death. And when you look at all three, when you look at all three, you'll see in his dance with Jairus' daughter, he gets victory over death. He raises the daughter. On the Mount of Transfiguration, after he talks to Moses and Elijah, we see that he's glorified through death. God help me. And by the time you get to the garden, he surrenders to death. May I suggest tonight that he surrendered in the garden to the death of the cross, so Friday wasn't no problem for him. God, I just said something. He had already drank from the cup. He had already gone through it. So Friday was just a rerun. I wish I had somebody up there. He'd already surrendered. The Bible said he takes Peter, James, and John, goes further into the garden, and he himself goes a little further and prays. He did not go too far that the three could not hear him, and this is why after he prays, he finds them sleeping, and he says to them, "What are you doing sleeping?" It bothered him that the three were sleeping more than the others, because the first group he takes in the garden, he simply invites them to pray with him, but rather to pray for him. But the three, he invites them to pray with him. And there's a difference between praying for me and praying with me. And everybody who prays for you don't need to pray with you. God, I just said something. I said everybody who you invite to pray with you don't need to pray, come on up in here, for you or with you. Some people just need to pray for you and not with you, because everybody can't handle your vulnerability. I just said something. I said everybody can't see you in your nakedness, so you better be careful who you show your nakedness to. Everybody can't handle your raw emotion. Everybody cannot handle, check this out, our struggle in Jesus. Everybody cannot handle a struggling Jesus. A Jesus who's in the garden and he is struggling with the will of the Father. Everybody cannot handle a Jesus who is real, who is transparent, who is vulnerable. You don't want a struggling Jesus. You don't want to know he's agonizing. You don't want to know he's crying. You don't want to know he's wrestling, because it might mess your theology up. But I need a struggling Jesus, because my life hasn't always been perfect. I need somebody who knows what it is to not have anywhere to sleep, anywhere to live. Is there anybody up in here who says, give me a Jesus who can identify with my struggle? Everybody who prays for you is not capable of praying. So touch it and say, neighbor, stop asking people to to pray with you because everybody can't handle your nakedness. Sometimes they will take your nakedness as weakness and they will tell everybody else. That's why you need to have a secret closet where you can go in and say, Father, I stretch my hands. I'm struggling. Anybody struggling? I'm struggling trying to make ends meet. I'm struggling trying to raise children. I'm struggling on a job that ain't going nowhere. I'm struggling with my self-esteem. I came to let you know Jesus knows all about it. He knows what it is to struggle. And would you touch him and say, he knows all about it? He knows your sleepless night. He knows you've been crying all night long. He knows you don't know how you're going to pay your bills. He knows that you're financially struggling. That's why he came to see about you. Is there anybody up in here who thank God that he knows all about your trouble, knows all about your heartache, knows all about your pain? I don't need a pretty Jesus. I need a Jesus who knows what it is to be down and out, who knows what it is that foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man ain't got nowhere to lay his head. I need a Jesus who knows what it is to be rejected, experience shame, experience bitterness, because that's my situation. Is there anybody in the house tonight? He's wrestling. He's struggling. He's agonizing. These are raw emotions. He looks at the cup and he said, Father, if it be possible, if there's another way to redeem Jazz, if there's another way to bring them out, let this cup pass from me. I wish I had somebody up in here. He shares his raw emotions. He's agonizing every time he looks in that cup. And he sees the nails in his hands. And he sees the nails in his feet. And he realized they pierce him in the side. And he hears and he cannot hear the voice of his father. And he agonized that he's got to drink from this cup. I know you don't have that kind of struggle. I know you always want to do the will of God. I know you always cross every T and dot every I. But is there anybody at the sound of my voice that there's a cup in your hands that you ain't trying to drink, but the Lord ain't gonna let you bypass the cup, because there's some cup you're gonna have to drink. I don't care if you shout, if you speak in tongues, if you swing on the chandelier, there are some cup.
Beloved, I'm so excited that you were blessed by that word. I know it has made an eternal impact on your life. Sorry we ran out of time, but please know we will pick up where we left off from this previous broadcast. In the meantime, I am praying for you, and know this is your best day yet.
Be transformed with Dr. Jazz's dynamic message.
There's a difference between praying for me and praying with me. And everybody who prays for you don't need to pray with you, God. I just said something. I said everybody who you invite to pray with you don't need to pray, come on up in here, for you or with you. Some people just need to pray for you and not with you, because everybody can't handle your vulnerability. I just said something. I said everybody can't see you in your nakedness, so you better be careful who you show your nakedness to. Everybody can't handle your raw emotion. Everybody cannot handle, check this out, our struggle in Jesus.
Order your copy of Between Two Gardens on CD or DVD when you call 844-DR-JAZZ-4. Dr. Jazz Ministries provides support to global outreach programs currently focused in Trinidad and Tobago. With the new television broadcast, Your Best Day Yet, Dr. Jazz brings a fresh voice of power and encouragement.
I need you to partner with me in prayer because we need God to hear us and do something tremendous on the earth. But secondly, would you partner with me to equip, empower, and educate men and women in the gospel ministry to let them know that there is a God who's able to pick them up and turn them around. Would you consider doing both for me?
Your gift of $32 or more helps continue to make this inspirational broadcast possible. Sow a life-changing seed today. Become a partner with Dr. Jazz Ministries, 844-DR-JAZZ-4. Join Dr. Jazz for any of these great events in a city near you. April 29th in Detroit, Michigan for the 2014 Breakthrough Conference at the Second Ebenezer Church. May 5th and 6th at Ebenezer AME Church in Fort Washington, Maryland. May 16th, join Dr. Jazz for the Women's Empowerment Weekend at the Worship Center Christian Church in Birmingham, Alabama. For more information, call 844-DR-JAZZ-4 or visit IamDrJazz.org.
Hey, I would love for you to stay connected with me on social media. I am Dr. Jazz on Twitter. I am Dr. Jazz on Facebook. I am Dr. Jazz on Instagram. And just in case you're still on MySpace, I am Dr. Jazz.
We want to hear from you. Connect with Dr. Jazz Ministries today. Visit IamDrJazz.org.
The first Adam left the garden living beneath the cross. The second Adam left the garden and died on a cross. The first Adam lived beneath his privilege. But the second Adam has given me authority to live not beneath what I am, but to be what God created me to be. As this is your